Pleasant day to all of you watching this video. My name is Luigi as Labrador, and I am the representative of group number 4 in representing the group and presenting our research study entitled Teneur Minérale, Classification and Comparison of Commercial Alkaline Bottled Drinking Water in Santa Mesa, Manila to international standards based on their mineral content and carbonate alkalinity. This is in partial fulfillment for our subject Chem 205, Analytical Chemistry 1. Now, in this discussion, we are going to talk about the background of the study, the methodologies that was used in the study, the research objectives, statistical analysis and treatment, and then the results and discussion, and also lastly, the conclusions and references. So let's get started, shall we? Nowadays, bottled drinking waters are really marketable for the consumer. There are things such as artesian water, electrolyte water, spring water, and many other types of water that companies claim to have therapeutic benefits, such as improving your mood or improving your gut health and improving your overall well being. Bottled mineral waters and alkaline waters are also making waves in the industry for their marketed mineral enrichment. Mineral enrichment. What does this have to do with our study? So, mineral content is the total sum of major cations such as calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium, and major anions such as carbonates, nitrates, and sulfates in a water sample. Now, this allows the consumers to know how much exactly the minerals they are intaking from these mineral waters. Okay. On the other hand, alkaline waters are also marketed for their neutralizer as a neutralizer for the acid buildup in our body. Carbon alkalinity is one of the quality assessment for water. Carbonate alkalinity is the measure of bicarbonate and carbonate concentrations in a water sample. Now, with all of that being said, we are going to focus on carbonate alkalinity and mineral content in our study in order to assess the quality of the commercial alkaline brand in Santa Mesa, Manila. So the objectives of this study is to quantify carbonate alkalinity of each water samples, to classify water samples by their mineral content, and lastly, to test the compliance of water samples according to the regulated amount. Now, for our regulated amount, we chose the international standard from the Illinois Department of Public Health, which is 400 milligram per liter or 400 ppm of carbonate alkalinity. Now, how do we get those mineral content and those carbonate alkalinity? First, we do our methods. For our methods, we use the acid-base titration. And we titrated these brands, the 7-Eleven pH 9, the Le Mineral, the Evian, and the Light Water, Kirkland, and lastly, the Nature Spring Water. These are all locally sourced from the area of Santa Mesa, Manila. Firstly, in the process of acid-base titration, we standardize our titrant, which is the HCl solution or the hydrochloric solution. We standardize the hydrochloric solution by also using a standardized sodium hydroxide, which is prepared using 12 grams of sodium hydroxide dissolved in a 1 liter aqueous solution and then standardized against the 0.3 grams of potassium hydrogen thalate. Now, we use this standardized sodium hydroxide by titrating it against the 5 ml alico of a 1 molar hydrochloric acid solution. Now, the 1 molar hydrochloric acid solution is prepared by getting 21 ml of a 12 molar hydrochloric acid solution and diluting it into a 250 ml aqueous solution. Now, after all of those standardization of hydrochloric acid solution, we then use the hydrochloric acid solution as a titrant against and is titrated against the 50 ml alico of the water samples that was mentioned earlier. And then titrated samples were titrated up against the phenolphthalein and the methyl orange endpoint. The phenolphthalein endpoint is signified by the change of pink to white, and then the methyl orange red point is signified by the color transition from yellow to orange. Now, the phenolphthalein endpoint, um, it That's how we compute for the sodium hydroxide concentration. And for our real goal, the methyl orange endpoint is very helpful since it computes for the bicarbonate and the carbonate concentrations. Now, with all of that being said, we can now compute for the bicarbonate and the carbonate concentration, and we can get into classifying our water in due to their mineral content and also determining their carbonate alkalinity. But before that, we need to discuss our statistical treatment and our analysis. We use the standard deviation or a descriptive statistics that is used to compute the propagated error during the preparation of the sodium hydroxide solution, the hydrochloric acid solution, and also when computing for the concentration of the bicarbonate and the carbonate ions. After using all of that, we then now use the one-tailed t-test that is used to accept or reject the null hypothesis of the study regarding the commercial alkaline bottled drinking water brand's compliance to the standard set by the Illinois Department of Public Health. Now, the hypothesis of our study is here in the screen. For our null hypothesis, the mean carbonate alkalinity of the sample is statistically greater than or equal to 400 ppm. This would mean that the water sample definitely exceeded the threshold and is not compliant with the Illinois Department of Public Health standard. Now, for our alternative hypothesis, if we manage to reject the null hypothesis, the mean carbonate alkalinity of the sample is statistically less than or equal to 400 ppm. This would mean that the water samples and brands are actually compliant to the standards that was set. Okay, so with that being said, here are our results. So 4 out of 6 alkaline water brands complied with the standards set by the Illinois Department of Public Health, which is to not exceed the 400 milligram per liter or 400 ppm. And for our mineral content classification, 2 sample brands were revealed to be medium mineral content water, while the 8 sample brands were shown to be low mineral content water. Now we can see in the next slide our carbonate alkalinity per alkaline water brands. In here, we can see that the Evian water, highlighted in bold, had the highest value of carbonate alkalinity, which is 597 milligram per liter. And then followed by the 436 milligram per liter carbonate alkalinity of the Nature Spring. However, it is interesting to note that the Evian water brand had the highest error, which is 10.11% in relation to the other brand's percentage error, which ranges mostly to 4.08 until 4.23, which is really close to each other. Now, the high carbonate alkalinity can be considered from the errors made during the titration process, or it can also be from the manufacturing process of the Evian water brand. Now, with that being said, our compliant brands were 7-Eleven pH 9, the Kirkland water, Lay Mineral water, and lastly, the light water, which displayed the lowest carbonate alkalinity at 174 milligram per liter. So for our EVN and Nature Spring, we accept the null hypothesis of them having a carbonate alkalinity of greater than 400 ppm, while the 7-Eleven pH 9, Kirkland Lay Mineral, and Light Water, we reject the null and accept the alternative hypothesis of them having less than 400 ppm of carbonate alkalinity. Moving on to our mineral content classification, there is a study conducted by Quattrini et al. Back in 2017 entitled Natural Mineral Waters, Chemical Characteristics and Health Effects that had a mineral content classification. According to that study, if a mineral water had less than 50 in mineral content in ppm, it is considered a very low mineral content water. When the mineral content in ppm is 50 to 500, it is considered low mineral content water. And then for the next, which is medium mineral content water, the mineral content in ppm should be 500 to 1,500. And lastly, those who go above and beyond 1,500 in mineral content in ppm is considered to be rich mineral content water. Now, using this classification, we can now classify our sample groups. We got the sodium hydroxide, sodium concentration, the calcium concentration, the bicarbonate concentration, and the carbonate concentration. Now, this is a limitation in our process since, in our methodology, since it only allowed for the computation of those cations and anions. However, in the whole general computation for the mineral content, it is also take the minerals such as magnesium, sulfates, nitrates, potassiums, and all of the other minerals are also taken account. So in this study, we will just be focusing our scope into the mineral content of the water samples. The mineral content, the focus mineral is the bicarbonates, carbonates, calcium, and sodium. Now, with that being said, we can see that the Evian and the Nature Spring of A10 is are the ones considered to be medium mineral content in water samples. Okay. It is interesting to note that the Nature Spring of the A10 and the Nature Spring of the A1 and A7 are really distant in value. Now, this may be due to the to errors or any other technical problems during the titration process, but looking at the relative standard deviation, it may not be the case. So, for the highest mineral content, the Nature Spring, which is 621 milligram per liter, and then the Evian, which is 577 milligram per liter, is considered to be medium in mineral content. Now, in A1's Nature Spring, the 711 PH9, the lay mineral, Kirkland, light water, they are considered to be low mineral content water. Okay. So to end the study, we conclude that 66.67% of the six commercial alkaline bottled drinking water brands were considered to be compliant to the Illinois Department of Public Health standards, which is to not exceed 400 milligram per liter of carbonate alkalinity. The brands that complied were Lightwater, Kirkland, 711 PH9, and Lay Mineral, while 33.33% of the six commercial alkaline bottled drinking water brands exceeded the threshold, which are Evian and Nature Spring. Now, it is with this that we recommend enforcing stricter regulations and really letting the consumers know that they have exceeded the threshold so that when they buy or they consume the Evian and Nature Spring, they are very well aware of the problems that it can cause. However, it may not be a very serious health problem, but it's a matter of aesthetic problem, like the palatability, the causing of hard scales when you throw it in the sink, and then many other things. Now, for our mineral content, 20% of the 10% of the 10 water samples were considered to be medium mineral content water, and while the 80% of the samples were shown to be only low mineral content water. With this, we end the discussion. I thank you all for listening to this discussion. These are our references. And with that being said, this discussion is adjourned. Thank you.